You see, Uncle Kwesi has nailed it right on the head. The world prior to 1995 was a different world, dominated by the West and the USA. Yeah. When I say West, Western Europe and the US.
What we call the North Atlantic.
The West, what we call the West.
Yeah.
They had the industrial capacity, they had the industrial minds, they had the industrial power, military might. They were the hegemon of the world. What today forms the NATO, the old NATO, and maybe the new NATO. They formed the might of the world economically. Yeah. If you look at the goods that were even in our countries, they came from Germany, came from Europe. If you saw a TV, it was a British TV, maybe a Philips, a blender, it was a Kenwood. All these were because they had access to our markets. And that access to our markets had been developed from 1946, from the GATT, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. And out of that, they developed the WTO. The WTO is like a boxing match, where all the players are in the same ring, regardless of size. So many African countries joined the WTO, many Asian countries joined the WTO without capacity. And it meant that these Western governments could send their products into our markets. Our markets were at their mercy. But countries like China and in Africa, Ethiopia, refused to join WTO in 1995. They said, no, we cannot go and fight in the same boxing ring with heavyweights when we are welterweights and featherweights.
It's skewed.
Yes. So let us take our time and then we will join the fight. So China waited and joined in 2001. WTO was set up in 1995, I think. The rules were simple. They had what they called MFN, Most Favored Nation Principle. And then we had what they call national treatment, which means that you treat all other goods in your market, whether foreign or local, the same. So these were the principles that underpinned the global trading system. And when you go to WTO negotiations, it is a face-to-face, country by country. We had cases where African countries didn't even have technical capacity. No technical capacity. So when they go, the minister and his team are going shopping. And then their other colleagues from the other countries were putting in the tariffs on their behalf. There's so many stories around that we've all learned from in the university. So we got to know that these were the things that took place. And most African countries became so disadvantaged in their tariff negotiations that we got to a point we had to go and hide behind other countries like India. If today India brings us half of our pharmaceuticals, it's because they fought the US patent for IP rights at the WTO level. And that is why we are buying all our medications from India. Yeah. Because they got the right to use them for generics, which makes them cheaper, and we are able to use them. So it has a direct effect on everybody. And the WTO rules were set up so that we would all benefit from it, according to the West. What the Chinese did was to wait, build their capacity, and then they joined in 2001. When they joined in 2001, their biggest advantage at that time was cheap labor. So they had very, 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 very cheap labor. When the Americans realized that they couldn't fight them on that level, then they gave us AGOA. Yeah. That, Africa, take AGOA. AGOA will help you in the next 25 years. Be developing all these small, manual industrialization, this low-level, low-skilled garments, industries, all the things that we try to, and that's when Kufuor tried to do the special initiatives in garments and all those things, just to be able to develop that export sector. Yeah. What the Africans did was to destroy their own business people and now invite Chinese. So when you go to a place like Mauritius, the garment industry there is owned by Chinese. When you go to Ethiopia, the SEZ zones there, the garment industries are owned by the Chinese. So if you're in Trump's shoe, and I've given Africa that opportunity to help me battle my opponent, who I know I couldn't fight at that level, and you allow your opponent to come into your home and fight me, what will you do? That's the thinking. That's the rationale behind what Trump is doing. So he says, then let me take the AGOA away, because the AGOA is not benefiting the Africans directly. The Africans, the Chinese are now in Africa fulfilling the AGOA program.
So hold
That's
on.
number one.
What you're saying is that, before you go ahead, so what you're saying is that this is just not an issue of slapping tariffs on
No.
countries. There's also a geopolitical war.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, even Mexico. Why did he slap tariffs on Mexico? Because the Chinese have moved their industries into Mexico so that they can have access to the U.S. market. So when he says he's going after Mexico, that is the reason. It's got nothing to do with Mexico being a country next to. No, it's because today Mexico has a large Chinese industrial base whose target is the United States market. So if you look at the tariffs, all those with large exports into the US got large responses.
Yes.
Bangladesh. Because all the garment industries in Bangladesh, although many are today owned by the local Bengali people, were originally Chinese investments.
Yeah.
Vietnam is Chinese investments. That's there. So it is a trade war being fought by two big elephants. We, the grass, are suffering.
Yeah.
We, the grass.
We've been caught in the crossfire.
Yes. So that is what is actually happening. So what Trump has done, as Kwesi said, is to, in fact, declare war on everybody, the whole world. Every country is facing some bullets from the U.S.
Yeah, but
his hope is that it would make exports into the U.S. expensive, so that U.S. manufacturing would grow, because he also needs to employ his people.
Yes.
What he's forgetting is that the low level, the rate at which the low cost of labor in these other third world countries are not what you have in the U.S. You cannot make a Nike shoe in the U.S. for $30. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But you can make it in Vietnam because the person is being paid maybe $3 an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe in Ghana, $10 a day.
So talking labor costs.
Yes. So for me, that's where I see that there's a problem with this. Number two, he's upending all that we have all agreed to for the last. It's like kids playing football together, and then you change the rules. You know,
In the middle of the game.
In the middle of the game, because you are losing the match. These rules were all set by the U.S. and they were forced on all our necks. And now people took it. Hook, like sinker. Hook, line, and sinker. We took them. Today, China is giving them the same dose of their own medicine that they gave us. And now they are saying that, no, let's change the rules. We cannot go by these same rules again. Just as Kwesi said, we have to fight this together. We shouldn't even look at it from an African perspective only. Africa and the South must fight this thing together. Otherwise, we are going back to pre-1946, 1945, where the U.S. had a protectionist approach to their economy. The only reason why...
Why do I have a feeling from everything you've said that it looks like history is unfolding right here in our eyes?
Yes.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Every major conflict in the world in the last maybe 100 years or 150 years was because of this.
Right.
Was because of trade and access to markets.
Yeah.
So it is a very dangerous time that we have to navigate sensibly. You know, we have to really navigate well. If you look at the history of Second World War, it was the same. The Japanese lost access to South Asia. The Americans went into the Philippines. The Japanese lost access to rubber and tin and all those industrial materials that they needed for industrialization. And that was the end of it. And then they decided to go to fight and stop the Americans from expanding into their backyard. At that time, China wasn't what it is today. China was even, Japan had just colonized China, had colonized all that small area. So, and parts of South Korea. So these are, it's like history is repeating itself.
Yeah.
But we have knowledge of history, and we can mitigate it or prevent it from happening again. Because the Chinese are not, even Trump went ahead to say that he wants Greenland. Why? It's not geopolitics. Because they are rare earth minerals. Today's trade issues has got nothing to do with steel and cocoa, and no. It's got to do with rare materials, minerals. The lithiums, the things we need for the new economy, the new digital economy. Things that we need for solar paneling and electric cars and electronics and all that. So those are the things that they are fighting. Even whilst they are putting tariffs on all of us, the U.S. is even negotiating with the country, DRC, that, okay, you know what, I'll help you get peace for minerals.
Yeah.
It's on the table. So you should understand what is happening globally. And Africa's chance, I also see that as an opportunity for Africa. It's a chance for us to put our heads together and develop our own market. We have a market of almost 1 point something billion.
Yeah.
In the next 30 years or 20 years, we'll be the youngest population of the world, and almost 2/3 of the world, 25% of the world's population. So what else do we need? What we need is leadership to put us together, to bring our markets together, create a bigger market where it is possible for you to trade internally. Because if I'm producing food in Ghana and I'm producing it for 30 million people, my unit cost may be high. But if I'm producing food in Ghana and my target is a population of 2 billion, then my unit cost may be low, because instead of producing 1 million bottles of water, I'll produce 100 million bottles of water, and my unit cost will be low, because there's a market of 1 billion people. That is if you can even get, that's 5% of the market. So the opportunity is there.
Isn't that why AFTA has been set up? So
AFTA, until recently, we didn't have the big players in Nigeria and Egypt. Now they are in.
Yes.
But you see, it's a positive step.
Yes.
I believe that's a positive step. But even now, we have it makes more sense to deepen the institutions of AFTA.
Okay.
To make sure that the electronic payments, the things that we have put together, the PAP systems, and all those things, I mean, they are known to people like you and I. They are not known to the rest of our people. Our people are still carrying money across the border, still carrying CFA across the border. And these are some basic things. For the last 40 years, ECOWAS has been trying to ease the movement of people. Just try and cross the border to Togo. It becomes an impossibility. Just Togo, Lomé. Meanwhile, the Lomé and Aflao, they are the same people. It's one town. One town. Yet it's so difficult to cross that border.
Laissez-passer.
Even sometimes to travel within Africa, if you want to go to a place like Malabo, sometimes you have to go to Europe, go all the way to Spain, and then take another aircraft from there, transit from there, and come back to Africa. So there are challenges, but I see them also as opportunities that Africans must take advantage of the fluidity and the fluid nature of what is happening now and grow. Grow our own manufacturing base, grow our own market, just like the Chinese did, so that when we go to the table the next time, we have the capacity to negotiate and negotiate well. Yes, we are a sovereign state, but we don't have the capacity to even go and sit and have a conversation. I saw what Trump did to the Ukrainian president like a month ago. He does the same thing to our presidents when they go to see him. Okay. It's just that he doesn't come out in public.
Yeah, he embarrassed him.
He told him off, sit here, don't do this, don't speak. It's the same thing that happens to our leaders. They come back and then they come and pretend as if they went for some important meeting and came back. They become non-entities when they are there. That is the reality. So we have to build our capacity and then now go to the table and negotiate. But we cannot fight this on our own. That one, I'm certain, and I agree with Uncle Kwesi. We just can't fight it on our own. That South-South cooperation that we have had in the past must be revived. The non-aligned movements that we have had in the past must be revived. And then go to the table. Because what they are trying to do is to divide and conquer. What the US is doing is, we'll pick some, you give him some preferential treatments, and you give you something back. Okay, Ghana, give me space for my drone base. If you agree, you give you some preferential treatment. What are we exporting to the US? Gary, yam. I mean, what is the value?
I can't hear.
What is the value? Yes. Look at the list of the things we call non-traditional exports. What is the value? Meanwhile, people are fighting to export billions of dollars. They are fighting to export, even if it was cocoa, $1 billion worth of cocoa. What is the value of $1 billion? When one company in Vietnam is exporting over $25 billion worth of goods. So when they go and sit at the table, who will matter? So we really have to take this bull by the horn and start the conversation internally, solve the problems internally, so that we can also go out there and negotiate better for ourselves. No wonder our foreign ministry wrote this letter.
You also find something wrong with the letter?
What are we fighting for? I mean, what's the letter supposed to do? The letter, we were expecting that to spell out our national interest. Where's our national interest?
And not just simply capture what happened.
No. This one is news. We all know this. Everybody knows this. You know this. This is what the woman said. So you are re-echoing what the woman has said. That is all. According to Her Excellency Palmer today, under the invitation. And then it flows from there. But you should be telling us something about our own national interest. What is Ghana's interest in all this? Okay, Are we going to allow the drone base to come in? Are we going to allow A or B or C? What will be the implication for our relations with our neighbors? What will be the implication for our neighbors with AES and our relations with AES or our relations with the rest of Africa? How will they perceive us? That's what they're looking for. So the US has a strategy. We should also have a strategy.
We are applying diplomacy. We are applying diplomacy.
We don't want to go and flex muscle. Nobody is fighting.
We are weak.
See, the people who can fight are the Chinese and co.
Yes.
Not us.
Yes.
We are not in that business.
Yes.
So they are not asking. After war, yes, there's reconstruction, money will be made and all that, but that is not the aim of this. Because we make more money when we work together.
Yes.
So the Chinese are not. It might even affect the Chinese more if there's a war, because for them the US is their market, and the value of the US market is because the people consume.
Yeah.
They're a big consumer.
It's a big market.
No, it's a big consumer base for the world.
Yes.
One. Number two, their currency is now the currency of the hegemon. Let me put it that way. So it's their currency, the currency for trade. And even that one, it's changing because the Chinese are now are trying to push for us to use their yuan to trade in Chinese goods. The US is saying no. BRICS is also trying to develop a currency. So it's a very fluid time in the history of the world. And for me, I'm happy that I'm witnessing it. Apart from witnessing it, we should also find a way of, influencing it so that it turns out positively for Africa and not that Africa loses out again after over 200 years of 400 years of slavery and 100 years of colonialism. We become, we tie ourselves down for another 100 years or 200 years. The effects of some of these WTO rules that the US imposed on us is the collapse of our poultry industry. It was the collapse of our food industry, our tomatoes. If you take a plate of food in Ghana today, everything is foreign. The vegetable oil comes from Indonesia or Malaysia. The frito, we only bottle them here. It comes from Indonesia or Malaysia. Meanwhile, they took the palm from us to go and grow there. The chicken comes from Brazil. The rice comes from Vietnam and Thailand. The tomato paste comes from China and packaged here or Germany or in Europe. That is it. And it is an effect of the WTO rules, because when you say national treatment, it says you treat your foreign goods in your economy just as you treat your own Ghanaian goods. And there's another one called MFN, which means that you would treat your neighbor's goods the same way you treat yours. Yeah. So with these two rules alone, the US flooded our market. The Tyson chicken, it comes from the US. The seeds that we even use for our plant agro industry, the nascent one here, comes from the US. And it's all under the rules. So we really, I also see it as an opportunity for us. If they want to upend the rules, let's all upend it. And then go back to the drawing board and realign ourselves well. But this time with the knowledge and the history of what has transpired in the last 30 years under WTO. And then we all move forward. I think that would be my...
Okay, see.
Boss,
senior.
I must thank you for this most brilliant submission. I'm quite honest about
very
it.
enlightening, to be honest.
I'm grateful.
And to be honest, if somebody had told me that you would do this presentation, I would have doubted, given your political colorization and so on. But it's a very brilliant submission.
I'm grateful.
And I must salute you for that.